The Alpha King led his Luna home. Then he spotted his ex on the crosswalk with twins. Rain fell in soft sheets over the city, turning streets into rivers of silver and shadow. Neon lights flickered, reflecting in puddles, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed like a warning. Kale, the Alpha King, walked with quiet confidence through the storm, his coat heavy with rain but his mind sharper than any blade. Beside him, Alara, his Luna, moved with a quiet grace, her presence both a comfort and a reminder of the world he had to protect. Kale's eyes scanned the streets, ever alert. Even in the city far from his forest home, danger seemed to lurk behind every corner. Yet tonight, his thoughts were not on enemies or rival packs. They were on the woman who had vanished from his life years ago. Lyra. He had never stopped thinking about her, her laugh sharp yet tender, her eyes fierce and bright, and the way she had once dared to love him despite the storms that raged between them. She had disappeared without explanation, leaving only silence and regret in her wake. Kale had tried to bury the past, to focus on his duties, but a piece of him had always remained unfinished, waiting for answers he had never received. The Alpha King led Alara along the cobbled streets toward the safety of the palace. She trusted him completely, though Kale knew the bond between them was more than mere loyalty. It was a silent promise, an unspoken connection that only alphas and their lunas could share. Their footsteps echoed softly on the wet stones, a rhythm that mirrored the pounding of Kale's own heart, though he tried not to notice it. Then, as they approached the crosswalk near the city's center, his gaze caught movement that made his breath stall. She was there, Lyra. She stood under the dim glow of a street lamp, a coat drawn tight around her shoulders, her hair damp from the rain. In her arms, two small children clung to her, their faces hidden in the folds of her coat. Kale's chest tightened as a wave of emotion crashed over him. Shock, disbelief, and something he had not felt in years. Longing. He froze, unsure if he should call her name or retreat into the shadows. The world seemed to narrow until only the three figures at the crosswalk existed. Lyra's head lifted slightly and their eyes met. Her gaze widened, a flicker of fear, or perhaps recognition crossing her face. Kale swallowed hard, his voice caught in his throat. It can't be. Yet it was. He took a step closer, the rain soaking his coat, his hair plastered to his forehead, and his heart a storm of emotions. The twins, he could see it now in their small, delicate features. The same sharp line of her jaw, the same curve of her eyes, his children. His blood, the realization struck him like lightning. Lyra had hidden them from him all these years. And why? The questions rushed forward, unrelenting. Where had she been? Why had she never contacted him? And now, why appear here in the middle of the city as if fate had drawn her to him? Lyra took a cautious step back, shielding the twins with her body. "Kale," she whispered, her voice trembling. It was the same voice he remembered, filled with strength and fragility all at once. "Lyra," he said, his tone low and steady, yet every word carried the weight of years spent in longing. "What are you doing here?" "And them?" His gaze fell to the children, and he could no longer deny it. They were his. Lyra's eyes darted around, watching the empty streets. "I didn't want you to find us," she admitted, her words a mixture of fear and resolve. "I had to keep them safe from everything. From the rival packs, from your enemies, from you." Kale felt a flicker of anger at her words, sharp and bitter. From me, he thought. He had protected her in every way he could, and yet she had vanished, leaving him blind to the truth. And now she implied he could be a threat. Yet beneath the anger was something else, a pull he could not resist. The sight of her holding his children, the curve of her shoulders, the faint tremble in her hands, it stirred something deep inside him, something protective, something tender. He was their alpha. He was their father, and he would not allow fear to dictate their lives any longer. Kale stepped closer, his presence commanding but careful. "Let me see them," he said softly. I need to know they're mine." Lyra hesitated, her gaze flicking from him to the children. The twins, sensing the tension, clung tighter to her. One peeked out from the folds of her coat, revealing bright, curious eyes, eyes that mirrored Cale's own. He knelt down, careful not to appear threatening. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to protect you, all of you." Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but no words came. Instead, she handed him the smaller of the twins, a little boy with a quiet, watchful gaze. Cale held him close, feeling a spark of connection, a warmth that spread through his chest and settled his stormy heart. The other twin, a girl, remained in Lyra's arms, but her eyes followed Cale with curiosity. He could see the faint glow in her aura, a sign of the magic that ran through their bloodline. The children were not ordinary. They carried the legacy of the Alpha and his Luna, a lineage that was both powerful and fragile. Cale stood, the boy still in his arms, and faced Lyra fully. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was calm, but every word trembled with the weight of years of unanswered questions. Lyra's eyes filled with tears and the rain ran down her cheeks. "I couldn't," she whispered. "I had to survive, and I had to keep them safe. You were too powerful, Cale, too much responsibility. I thought I was protecting them from you, from your enemies, from the world." Cale's heart twisted at her words. The thought that she had feared him, feared the man he had become, was almost unbearable. And yet he understood. He had been a king, an alpha, a man of power and authority. The world he ruled was dangerous. Anyone who crossed it, anyone he loved, was at risk. "Lyra," he said, stepping closer, "I am not the man you left. I am still Alpha, yes, but I am also your partner if you will let me be. I am still the man who loved you, who will protect you and these children no matter what." Her gaze softened, but fear lingered. "I don't know if I can trust that," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I've survived on my own for so long. I can't risk them." Cale nodded, understanding the depth of her fear. "I don't expect trust overnight," he said, "but I will prove it. I will show you that nothing can harm you while I breathe. You and the twins belong with me, Lyra, with us." A sudden howl echoed in the distance, slicing through the rain and the city noise. Cale's ears pricked, instincts flaring. The sound was familiar, a rival pack testing boundaries, sensing weakness. Lyra stiffened, clutching the girl tightly. "They know we're here," she whispered. "They'll come for the children." Cale's grip on the boy tightened, his eyes flashing with determination. "Then they will find me ready," he said, his voice low and dangerous. The alpha in him surged, protective and commanding. His past regrets, his longing, his love, they all converged in this moment. He looked at Lyra, her face pale and tense in the rain, and felt an overwhelming need to protect her. "We go home," he said firmly, "to the palace. You will be safe there, I promise." Lyra hesitated, weighing his words against the years of survival, fear, and solitude. Finally, she nodded, a small but significant gesture of trust. "Lead the way," she said softly. Cale gestured for her to follow, holding the boy close, and together they moved through the rain-soaked streets. The city seemed to blur around them, the neon lights casting long shadows, the storm masking their passage. In that moment, Cale felt the weight of his destiny settle on his shoulders, the protection of his Luna, the care of his children, and the reclamation of the love he had thought lost. Yet even as they approached the safety of the palace gates, Cale could not shake the gnawing thought in his mind. Why now? After all these years, why appear at this precise moment in the rain with the twins in her arms? The answer eluded him, buried in Lyra's gaze, a mystery wrapped in fear and longing. He would uncover it soon enough, and when he did, nothing would be the same again. As they stepped into the courtyard, the storm seemed to break slightly, rain falling in a gentle drizzle instead of a torrent. But Cale knew the calm was temporary. The past had returned, and with it, new challenges, new dangers, and the chance for redemption and reunion. He looked at Lyra, the twins, and then up at the palace walls that had sheltered his family for generations. "We are together now," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else, "and no one will tear us apart again." Yet in the back of his mind, a shadow lingered. Someone or something was watching, and the night was far from over. The palace gates closed behind them with a deep, echoing clang, sealing the storm outside. Cale held the boy tightly, feeling the small warmth against his chest, while Lyra guided the girl into his arms as if reluctant to let go. The courtyard was silent, wet stones gleaming in the fading moonlight, but even in the calm, the sense of unease lingered. Cale could feel it, watchers beyond the walls, eyes sharp as blades, and danger that was still close. Alara stepped forward, her presence a quiet but solid reassurance. She did not speak, but her eyes met Cale's, conveying understanding. He nodded slightly. He did not need words to explain the urgency of their situation. Inside the palace, Cale led Lyra and the twins to the main hall, where the hearth crackled and candles flickered, casting soft light over the walls lined with tapestries of battles, hunts, and ancestral achievements. The room smelled faintly of burning wood and old stone, a scent that always reminded Cale of home, of legacy, and of responsibility. "Stay here," Cale instructed Alara and a few loyal guards. "No one enters or leaves without my order. I will handle this." Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the girl in her arms. "Cale, you don't understand. I understand more than you think," he interrupted gently yet firmly. "I know why you stayed away. I know the fear you carried. But now fear cannot decide their fate or ours." She lowered her gaze, biting her lip. "It wasn't just fear. I had no choice. You weren't ready to protect them. You were a king, a leader, a target, and I couldn't risk them falling into the wrong hands." Cale's chest tightened. She had accused him without saying it, but he felt the weight of her words. He had indeed been a target, and the years he spent ruling the pack had hardened him. He had no right to blame her for survival. But the years of separation, the longing, and the unknown torment she endured, it all surged up now, filling him with both fury and sorrow. "Show me," he said softly, crouching to meet her eyes. "Show me what you endured. I need to know everything so I can fix it." Lyra hesitated, fear flickering in her gaze. The palace was meant to be safe, yet her instincts screamed that telling the full truth would make them vulnerable again. But Cale's presence, steady and unwavering, called something deep inside her, a fragment of the trust she once had, the man she once loved. She exhaled slowly, as if letting go of a burden she had carried for too long. "After you left," she began, "I had nowhere. My family, they abandoned me. The rival pack, your enemies, they hunted me. I was forced to move constantly, to hide. And the twins, they were the only reason I stayed alive." Cale's eyes softened as he looked at the children. The boy rested his head against Cale's chest, eyes closed, sensing the calm strength radiating from him. The girl peeked over Lyra's shoulder, her gaze sharp and curious, like she was trying to understand the tension in the room. Both children were small yet fierce in spirit, and Cale realized that they had inherited not only Lyra's courage but also his own alpha strength. "You did well," Cale said finally, his voice low but filled with warmth. "You protected them. That is all that matters. But you should never have faced it alone." Lyra's eyes filled with tears and she shook her head. "I couldn't, not after what happened." Cale's expression darkened, recalling the rivals who had forced her into hiding. His body ached with regret and rage. "Tell me their names," he demanded softly but firmly. "The pack that hunted you." She hesitated, but the fear that had gripped her for years began to give way to a strange courage. "The Raventhorn pack," she whispered. "They wanted the twins to use their blood for power. They knew about the magic in their veins." Cale's heart thudded violently. Magic ran through their bloodline, subtle yet potent, a mark of the Alpha's lineage. He had sensed it in the boy, felt it flicker in the girl, but hearing the truth made the danger real. Their lives were not merely threatened by humans or rival packs, they were targets because of what they were meant to become. Cale took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Then we prepare. Tonight they will not touch the twins, not while I breathe." His voice was firm, commanding. In that tone, Lyra felt the full force of his alpha presence, the unyielding strength that had drawn her to him long ago. Lyra studied him, the tension between fear and trust creating a fragile bridge. "Kale, if they come, I can fight, but I don't know if." "You don't need to fight alone," Kale interrupted. "I am here, and they will not pass this threshold." A sudden flicker of movement outside the windows made Lyra start. She gripped the girl tightly, her eyes wide. Kale's gaze followed hers, sharp and precise. Shadows danced across the courtyard walls. Instinctively, Kale moved toward the windows, the boy still in his arms. "They are near," he muttered, "too close to ignore." Lyra's lips trembled. "Kale, what do we do?" He knelt slightly, setting the boy safely on a nearby chair. His eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. "We face them together, but first you must tell me everything. Every hiding place, every secret path. I need the truth if we are to survive." Reluctantly, Lyra nodded. She had kept the twins safe for years, but now she realized that secrecy alone would not protect them. The palace was strong, fortified, and under Kale's command, but enemies could find weaknesses if the truth remained hidden from the Alpha himself. She led Kale through a series of narrow corridors, staircases hidden behind sliding panels and secret chambers beneath the palace. The twins clung to her, their small hands holding tight to her coat. Kale noticed the subtle ways they reacted to the shadows. The boy stiffened when danger was near, and the girl's eyes glowed faintly whenever she sensed magic. "They are extraordinary," Kale murmured under his breath, almost to himself. He reached out and touched the boy's shoulder, feeling the pulse of life and power running through him. Just like their mother. Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. "They are strong, yes, but vulnerable. The Raventhorn pack, they know enough to be dangerous." "They will not hesitate," Kale's jaw tightened. "Then we make them hesitate, and if they come, they will regret it." A sudden knock echoed through the corridor, sharp and deliberate. Both Kale and Lyra froze. The twins whimpered softly, sensing tension in the air. Kale moved silently, placing himself between Lyra and the door. "I will handle this," he whispered, and in a swift motion the door swung open. A messenger, drenched from the rain, stumbled in, carrying a folded note sealed with a dark crest. Kale snatched it from the man's hand, eyes scanning the words quickly. The message was clear. "Tonight the bloodline will be claimed. Do not fail." Kale's hands curled into fists. The threat was immediate and the warning precise. He looked at Lyra, who was pale but determined. "You see," he said softly, "this is why you cannot stay alone. This is why we cannot hide." She nodded, swallowing her fear. "I know, I never wanted them to see the danger." "You cannot shield them from life forever," Kale replied. "But you can guide them, protect them, and together, we can survive anything." The twins, sensing the gravity of the moment, clung to their parents, small fingers entwined. Kale felt a surge of responsibility, but also of something else, hope. They were his children, and they carried the future of his pack and bloodline. Their power, their courage, and their bond would be their strength. As the night deepened, Kale and Lyra moved the family to the inner sanctum of the palace, a hidden chamber reinforced with magic wards and protective enchantments. The walls shimmered faintly, glowing with protective runes. The air hummed with ancient power, the kind that could repel intruders, even the most determined of rival packs. Kale placed the twins on a soft rug, letting them play quietly while he and Lyra discussed their next move. The storm outside had subsided slightly, but the tension in the palace was palpable. "I need to know everything," Kale said. "Every place they might strike, every weakness. If they come tonight, we must be ready." Lyra hesitated, then spoke in a low, steady voice. "There are 3 entrances they could use. One is through the city alleyways, they know them well. Another is the old forest path behind the palace, it's hidden but dangerous. And the third, the river gate. Few know of it, but if they do, it's a direct path to the inner chambers." Kale nodded. "Then we guard all 3. Alara and the guards will take the city alleyways. I will watch the forest path. You stay with the twins." Lyra's eyes met his, a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "Kale, are you sure this will work?" Kale reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "I am sure. Whatever comes, we face it together. The past, the secrets, they are no longer ours to bear alone. Tonight we stand as one family." The twins, unaware of the danger outside, laughed softly at a game of hide-and-seek Lyra had started. Their innocence made Kale's heart ache with both love and protection. They were small, yes, but already powerful, already part of something far greater than themselves. And he would ensure their survival no matter the cost. But even as Kale planned, a shadow moved silently outside the enchanted wards, observing, waiting. The Raventhorn pack would not rest. They had tasted the possibility of power and would not leave empty-handed. And when they struck, nothing in the palace could remain untouched. Kale's eyes narrowed, the Alpha's instincts blazing. He placed a protective hand over the runes etched into the chamber walls, feeling their energy hum beneath his fingers. "Let them come," he whispered. "We are ready." Night deepened over the palace, and the wind carried whispers of danger from the forest beyond. Kale stood at the edge of the terrace, the rain-drenched courtyard below a mixture of stone and shadow. His gaze cut through the darkness, every sense alert. The Raventhorn pack had not yet struck, but he could feel their presence, hear their subtle movements, and smell the faint trace of their passage through the mist. Inside the inner sanctum, Lyra watched the twins play quietly on the soft rug, their laughter a fragile shield against the tension surrounding them. She wanted to believe they were safe, that the palace's magic wards and Kale's strength would protect them, but fear clung stubbornly to her heart. Kale had returned from the city with a storm in his mind and a promise in his heart, but Lyra could not forget the years she had spent running, hiding, surviving alone. Kale stepped inside, his wet coat clinging to his broad shoulders. His eyes met Lyra's, and in that moment words were unnecessary. The Alpha's presence alone radiated protection and power, a promise that no harm would come to her or the twins while he stood watch. "We cannot wait any longer," Kale said softly, placing the boy into her arms. "They will come, and when they do, we must be ready. I cannot allow hesitation." Lyra nodded, her fingers brushing over the boy's hair. "I understand, but Kale, if they attack, I don't know if I—" "You will not face them alone," Kale interrupted, his voice firm yet gentle. "I will be with you. Together, we are stronger than any rival pack, any curse, any danger." A low growl resonated through the palace walls, subtle but unmistakable. Kale's head turned toward the forest gate. The first Raventhorn warrior had arrived, a shadow moving with silent precision, testing the defenses of the Alpha King's home. Kale's jaw tightened. He had known this would come, yet the sight of a threat drawing near filled him with a mixture of anticipation and dread. "Lyra, gather the twins and move to the protective ward chamber," Kale ordered. "Alara and the guards will hold the city gates. I will take the forest path." Lyra's eyes widened, a flash of fear in her gaze. "Kale, don't." "I am Alpha," he said firmly. "It is my duty. And I will not fail." With a hesitant nod, Lyra led the twins through the corridor to the chamber strengthened by protective runes. The soft glow of magic illuminated their path, casting long shadows that danced against the stone walls. The children's small hands clung to Lyra, sensing the tension in the air even if they could not understand its source. Kale moved toward the terrace overlooking the forest path, his senses stretched beyond the physical, into the mystical. He could feel the pulse of the twins' magic from within the palace walls, faint yet potent, like a beacon in the night. Whoever came for them would not merely be facing an Alpha. He was now defending a lineage, a bloodline imbued with ancient power. From the shadows of the trees, figures emerged, silent, calculated, and deadly. The Raventhorn pack had chosen their first strike carefully, sending scouts to probe the palace's defenses. Kale's eyes narrowed and his muscles tensed. He was not merely a warrior. He was the Alpha, a protector of blood and legacy. And nothing would reach the twins while he stood watch. He moved swiftly, a blur in the rain-soaked night, intercepting the first attacker before the shadow even fully formed. Kale's strength was unmatched, a combination of alpha power and years of battle-honed skill. The attacker fell, silent but alive, a warning to the others. The palace was not undefended. Within the palace, Lyra had secured the twins in the warded chamber. The girl's eyes glowed faintly in the candlelight, sensing the danger outside. Lyra reached for her, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "You are safe now," she whispered, though even she could not fully believe the words. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the halls. Guards shouted. Magic sparks flew as protective wards were tested. Lyra's heart jumped into her throat. She pressed the twins close, feeling the pull of magic from the other rooms. Something powerful had arrived, stronger than mere scouts. Kale returned to the terrace, having dealt swiftly with the first wave of attackers. But he felt it, something deeper, darker, and more cunning. A single figure, moving with precision, was making its way toward the inner palace. Kale's eyes flared. The rival pack had sent a specialist, a hunter skilled in magic and stealth, determined to claim the twins and strike fear into the Alpha King. He moved through the palace corridors like a shadow, every step deliberate. The hunter was fast, but Kale's senses were faster. When they met, the clash was fierce, a combination of strength, speed, and mystical energy. The air crackled with power, the walls of the palace trembling under their force. Lyra, hearing the clash, instinctively stepped toward the noise the twins held tightly. "Kale," she called, fear threading her voice. "I am here," he shouted back, his voice strong and commanding. "Stay with them," she obeyed, retreating to the warded chamber while Kale continued the fight. Each strike of his fist, each movement of his body was calculated to protect, to defend, to end the threat quickly. Yet the hunter's skill was formidable, the attack relentless. Kale felt his strength tested as never before, but he could not fail. Not now. Inside the warded chamber, the twins stirred. The boy's eyes shone with a flicker of power, sensing the Alpha's presence outside. The girl reached for Lyra, her tiny hands trembling as if she too could feel the danger approaching. Lyra hugged them close, murmuring reassurance, though her own fear was fierce. Outside, Kale finally overpowered the hunter, pinning him against the stone wall. The rain-slicked courtyard shimmered under the moonlight, reflecting the intensity of the confrontation. The hunter struggled, but Kale's strength and alpha command were overwhelming. "Tell your pack," Kale growled, voice deep and powerful. "The Alpha King does not fail." "Not tonight, not ever." The hunter glared, defiance in his eyes, but Kale's presence was too commanding. The man vanished into the night, retreating with a warning for the rest of his pack. Kale's heart still raced, but he knew this was only the beginning. The threat had been repelled, but the larger challenge, the safety of his family and the revelation of old secrets, was still ahead. Returning to the warded chamber, Kale found Lyra holding the twins close. She looked up, her expression a mixture of relief and lingering fear. They came," she whispered. Kale nodded, placing a hand over her shoulder. "They did, but they did not win, not tonight." He looked at the twins, small yet already showing signs of their power. "And they never will as long as we stand together." Lyra's eyes softened. "Kale, I never wanted them to see this. The fear, the danger, I wanted to protect them from everything." Kale shook his head gently. "You cannot protect them from life, Lyra, but you can teach them strength, courage, and love. That is what they need most." The twins looked up at him, eyes wide with curiosity. Kale knelt to their level. "You are special," he said softly. "You carry the power of your mother and the courage of your father. Nothing can take that from you. Not the storm, not rivals, not fear." The boy smiled faintly, as if he understood the words in ways he could not yet speak. The girl's eyes glimmered, a soft glow indicating the magic within her, waiting to grow. Kale's heart swelled with both pride and determination. They were his children, part of his bloodline and his legacy, and he would protect them at all costs. Lyra reached out, brushing her hand across Kale's arm. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself for the years apart, for keeping them from you. Kale's gaze softened. You did what you thought was right. That is all anyone can ask. Now we face the future together. There is no blame, only unity, only family. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself a small, tentative smile. The weight of fear and secrecy that had pressed upon her for so long seemed to ease, replaced by a cautious hope. She glanced at the twins, then back at Kale, and saw in him the same resolve, the same unwavering protection she had once loved. But even in the calm of the chamber, Kale's instincts remained sharp. Outside, the shadows of the forest whispered, the wind carrying the faint rustle of movement. The Raventhorn pack was still out there, regrouping, planning their next strike. And though the palace was strong and the wards were powerful, Kale knew this night was far from over. He rose, standing tall and commanding, and placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. We have faced the first wave, he said, but this is only the beginning. They will come again. And when they do, we will be ready, together. Lyra nodded, drawing the twins close. Together, she echoed. Kale looked down at them, his heart a storm of protection, love, and determination. He had been tested before as alpha and as man, but never like this. The threat was immediate, the stakes immense, and yet for the first time he did not feel alone. He had Lyra, he had the twins, he had his pack, and he had the power to defend everything he loved. As dawn approached, the rain stopped, leaving a glistening sheen on the palace stones. Kale stood at the window, watching the first light of day touch the horizon. The night had been hard, the battles fierce, but his family was safe, for now. Yet the shadows beyond the forest remained, silent and patient. The Raventhorn pack would not give up so easily, and Kale knew that when they struck again, the challenges would be greater, the tests fiercer, and the choices more difficult. But Kale was ready. He was alpha, protector, and father, and he would not fail, not for Lyra, not for the twins, not for his legacy. The forest beyond the palace whispered with danger. The Raventhorn pack had gathered, more than Kale had anticipated, their shadows stretching long under the moonlight. Kale stood at the terrace, wind whipping his coat around him, rain-soaked hair plastered to his forehead, eyes sharp and unwavering. He felt the pulse of the twins' magic from inside the palace, a subtle rhythm that connected him to them. Their power was small but growing, and he knew they were more than just children. They were the future of his lineage, and their survival depended on him. Lyra stood inside the protective ward chamber, holding the twins close. Her fingers brushed over the boy's hair and the girl's cheek, whispering words of comfort. "Stay strong," she murmured. "Papa is here. We are safe." Kale turned his gaze toward the forest. Figures moved with precision, hunting, testing, seeking weakness. He clenched his fists, muscles coiling. This would not be an ordinary confrontation. They sought more than power, they sought fear, control, dominance, but Kale would not allow it. He was alpha, protector, father. He moved swiftly, descending from the terrace to the courtyard, boots splashing through puddles. His guards flanked him, weapons ready, eyes vigilant. Kale's presence radiated authority, a silent command that made the air around him tense with anticipation. The first wave of Raventhorn warriors emerged from the trees, moving in formation, their eyes gleaming with malicious intent. Kale met them without hesitation. The clash was immediate, a storm of strikes, blocks, and raw power. He moved with precision, strength honed by years as alpha, striking decisively but carefully. Each enemy that advanced was met with Kale's unyielding force, his alpha energy flaring like a protective aura. Inside the palace, Lyra watched the wards flare with magical energy. She felt the pull of the twins' power, growing in response to the threat outside. The girl's eyes glowed brightly, a small flicker of light in the dim chamber. The boy's aura radiated warmth and strength, steady and grounded. Lyra realized they were not just children. They were part of something greater, and their magic responded to both fear and protection. Kale's focus remained unbroken as he sensed another movement from the shadows. One of the Raventhorn leaders, a tall figure cloaked in black, stepped forward. His aura was strong, dark, and commanding, an alpha in his own right, yet driven by greed and ambition. He met Kale's gaze, and the air between them vibrated with tension. "You cannot hold them forever," the rival growled. "The bloodline will be claimed. Your children will bow or fall." Kale's lips pressed into a firm line. "They will never bow, not to you. Not to anyone." He advanced, energy radiating from him, and the courtyard became a battlefield where strength, magic, and will collided. Back in the warded chamber, Lyra felt a sudden surge from the twins. The boy stood, small but determined, and extended his hands. A protective shield of faint light surrounded them, shimmering and pulsating with energy. The girl mirrored him, her glow adding to the strength of the barrier. Lyra gasped, realizing their power was not just defensive. They were actively participating in the protection of their family. "Kale," she whispered, awe and fear mingling in her voice. They can help." Kale felt the surge of power from inside the palace, a connection that filled him with both hope and determination. "Yes," he murmured, "they are stronger than they know, and together we are unstoppable." Outside, the rival Alpha advanced, striking with both physical strength and dark magic. Kale met him blow for blow, their clash shaking the stone courtyard. Sparks flew, wind whipped through the air, and the night became a storm of energy, fury, and unrelenting determination. Lyra guided the twins, urging them to focus, to use their abilities to strengthen the wards. The boy's aura pulsed with each word of reassurance, his small hands glowing with light. The girl's energy intertwined with his, forming a protective cocoon that shimmered like liquid silver. Lyra's heart swelled with pride and fear. These were her children, extraordinary and powerful, and she had survived all these years to see this moment. Kale, sensing the combined energy, roared with alpha power. His strength amplified, and he pressed the rival back, using both skill and magical force. The enemy staggered, surprised by the intensity of Kale's presence, and then surged forward again, striking with renewed aggression. "Kale!" Lyra's voice rang out, carrying both warning and hope. Kale glanced briefly toward the chamber. The twins' energy flared brighter, sending ripples through the palace walls. He smiled briefly, pride mingling with ferocity. "I see them," he shouted. "They are part of this fight, and together we will prevail." The courtyard became a whirlwind of energy. Kale's strikes met the rivals' dark magic. Shields of light shimmered, and the rain-slicked stones reflected bursts of power. Kale felt his own strength fueled by the connection to his family, to the children whose lives were tied to his own. He moved with purpose, each step and strike precise, each movement driven by love, protection, and destiny. Inside the chamber, Lyra guided the twins, whispering words of focus and courage. "You are strong," she told them. "You are brave. And you are our future." The boy and girl mirrored her determination, their small forms glowing brightly, their energy intertwining with the wards and reaching outward, touching the courtyard. Kale felt it, an extension of his own alpha energy, amplified by the twins' magic. The rivals staggered again, eyes widening at the unexpected force. Kale seized the moment, striking decisively. The enemy fell, caught in the surge of combined alpha power and family magic. Silence followed, the storm outside finally quieting. Rain still fell softly, but the energy in the courtyard calmed. Kale stood tall, chest heaving, eyes scanning the surroundings. The Raventhorn pack had been repelled, their leader defeated, but Kale knew this was only the beginning of a long road. They would return, driven by ambition and greed, yet he felt no fear. He returned to the warded chamber, lifting the boy into his arms and brushing the girl's hair from her glowing face. "You were incredible," he said softly, voice filled with awe and pride. "You both are extraordinary. Your power, it saved us." Lyra pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the energy of an alpha who had protected his family. "Cale, I don't know what to say. They are safe. We are safe." Cale shook his head, holding her gaze. "There are no words needed. We are together. That is all that matters. And from now on we face everything together." The twins clung to them, small hands gripping clothing, eyes shining with a mixture of awe and trust. Cale's heart swelled. These were his children, his bloodline, and he would protect them with everything he had, as he would protect Lyra. The years of longing, separation, and uncertainty had led to this moment, a family reunited, stronger than ever. Lyra's eyes filled with tears and she leaned into Cale, resting her head on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd see this day," she whispered. "After all the fear, the hiding, after all the years." Cale pressed a gentle kiss to her temple. "The past is behind us. What matters now is the future, our family, and our legacy. Together, we can overcome anything." A soft glow from the twins radiated throughout the chamber, their energy calm and steady, yet powerful enough to reinforce the protective wards. Cale knelt before them, smiling. "You are my pride, my strength, and the reason we endure. Never forget who you are or what you carry within you." The boy reached out, touching Cale's face with small fingers, as if acknowledging the connection between father and son. The girl's glow pulsed softly and she smiled faintly, sensing the bond forming, unbreakable and eternal. Cale's heart ached with love and determination. He would not fail them. He could not. Even in the calm, Cale remained alert. The forest beyond still whispered with potential threats, shadows stretching long under the rising sun. But Cale knew that whatever came, they would face it together. Lyra, the twins, the loyal pack, and his own unwavering strength. They formed a bond stronger than fear, stronger than power, stronger than any rival alpha. As the sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky in gold and crimson, Cale held Lyra and the twins close. The palace, a fortress of stone, magic, and legacy, stood around them, reflecting their victory, their unity, and their enduring love. Cale looked down at Lyra, his eyes filled with both longing and promise. "Whatever comes next," he whispered, "we face it as one. Our family, our bloodline, our future together." Lyra smiled through tears, pressing her forehead to his. "Together," she echoed. From the edge of the forest, a faint shadow watched them, retreating silently. Cale's instincts sensed it, but he did not fear. The past had returned, tested him, and yet he had emerged victorious. The Alpha, the Luna, and their children were united, and no force could break what had been forged in love, sacrifice, and destiny. For the first time in years, Cale allowed himself to relax, if only slightly. The storm had passed. The shadows had been confronted, and in the hearts of his family he saw the promise of a future filled with strength, courage, and love. The twins giggled softly, the girl's faint glow flickering, the boy's steady warmth radiating protection. Lyra rested against Cale's chest, safe and whole. And Cale, the Alpha King, felt a peace he had not known in years, a promise kept, a family reclaimed, and a future waiting to be written.